Nobody, and I mean nobody, hates passport bros more than the very women that the passport bros don't want. Case in point.
What the hell? What the hell? What the helly? What the helly are they?
Now, there is a truth and a lie there. See if you can spot one. And this girl is actually very interesting because she is a Western woman who chose to come here to live among all the passport bros and yet hate us. And let's just set aside the fact that I don't think she understands that she should be talking in her videos rather than having people read them. Now, the funny thing is that no one is more angry with passport bros than women, Western women in America and Europe, than Western women who chose to come here. And, you know, this is a very interesting case because these women see that pretty much every Westerner here is walking around with a Thai woman, and you can easily tell why. Thai women are very different from Western women, and I don't mean just looks, just their behavior, how much more feminine they are, how much more submissive they are, and kind and pleasant and all. So they see the example of what they should behave like if they want to date men here, whether, you know, Westerners or Thai men. And yet, they do nothing to change. Instead, they make TikTok videos like this, complaining. And as I mentioned in my previous videos, in almost 2 years of living here in Southeast Asia, I have not met or even heard of a Western woman who would come here single and get wifed up by a foreigner or a Thai man. Nobody wants them here. And even when I ask other Western men who live here if they would consider dating a Western girl, every time the answer is just laughter in my face. And, you know, with time, I understood why, because I did try dating Western women here because I thought they would adjust their behavior, and maybe this is kind of the reason why they're here. But no, they don't. They just continue being single. And this is why you would meet a lot of Western men here who've been here for decades sometimes, have, you know, families with Thai wives, and yet you would pretty much never meet a Western woman who lived here for even 5 or 10 years, because sooner or later they have to go back to the simps that they know and need to get into a relationship. All right, now let's address what she's actually saying in the video. Like I said, one thing is actually true, and we'll get to it in a second. And another one is a delusional lie, and like I said, that's very much on brand with Western women. So she's saying that, hey, you know, all these passport bros were complaining about, you know, how much money Western women require to be with them, essentially being gold diggers. But when they show up here to Thailand, all of a sudden they spend all this money on this girl and her family and her dog and her aunt and all of that stuff. Now, and again, this is how delusional these Western women are. They don't even understand what men want. I mean, this is a basic thing that women used to know in their late teens even, but not anymore. So what they don't understand is it's not that it's not the money that we don't want to spend. We actually love providing for our families, you know, our wives and our children and so forth. We have no problems with that. We want to do that. It is that we are not satisfied anymore with what we get in return. If you want a traditional woman, which we do, that's why we're passport bros, we don't get any of that anymore in Western women. They don't cook, they don't clean, they're not agreeable, they're not submissive, they're none of those things. So it doesn't really matter how much money we spend or don't spend on them. We don't get what we want in return. We don't get wives. Instead, we get women, well, like her, who just nag and nag and nag and have nothing to offer. Now, I have talked to this girl back and forth publicly, and you know, every time I get an answer from her in the comment section, you know, there's more and more and more of the Western woman combative attitude that comes out of her. And then these women don't understand, well, I can't believe none of these passport bros choose me, and, you know, walking around with these Thai women, you know, who never argue. What's up with that? That's why. And I can guarantee you she is going to be one of pretty much every single Western girl who would come here, enjoy Thailand because it is an amazing country, but at the end of the day will realize that nobody wants to wipe her up, and she will go back to, in this case, I believe America, where she came from, because she just cannot get a man here. Now let's get to the second part of her statement, which is actually 100% on the money. The majority of Western men who come to these countries, Southeast Asia, South America, Africa, and so forth, end up buying these girls and their families. I know quite a few of them personally, and she didn't even mention the fact that some of them pay alimony ahead of time, because in a lot of these countries, foreigners cannot own land, so they end up giving this money to their girlfriends or wives, so the wife buys the land and essentially the guy is a guest. And if there's ever any divorce or split up, guess who owns the house? So yes, this happens all the time. Now, why? And this is on Western men, because the majority of Western men are simps. And the only value that they think that they have for a woman is their money. If that's the case, before coming here, you have to improve yourself. So you have something more to offer than money, because otherwise you're just going to be, you know, your girlfriend or your wife is just going to be what I call a subscription prostitution, where you just have to hand over cash to her to stay with you and to marry you. And that's what happens all the time. Instead, why don't you improve yourself? You know, go to the gym, read a little bit of maybe extra books so you're a little bit more interesting, get a hobby, get a better career, and then come here where you don't have to pay money for women to pay attention to you. And secondly, these guys come here and they don't know how to not simp for women, and a lot of them are actually quite lazy, so they don't learn the language. Like, for example, Thai language is very hard to learn. I'm 2 years in, and you know, it's a slow progress. It's a slow progress. But at least I have a luxury of dating women who don't speak English, because, you know, if a woman here in Southeast Asia or in any other country speaks English, that's it. She is already damaged. They're pretty much no different than American women. They just don't require as expensive of a dinner on a first date, but otherwise there's almost no difference. And so because these guys don't learn the languages, they end up dating the same women, because they can only date women who speak English, and these women already figured out how to get money, attention, and everything else from simps. So the vicious circle, you know, starts over again, except for maybe they can afford a little bit of a prettier girl here. But at the end of the day, it is exactly the same problem. This is why in my course on how to become a passport bro, I always say, listen, you need to improve yourself first. And secondly, you need to pick the right country for you, where you can learn the language, where you understand the benefit of coming here and dating different women. Most of these guys don't even know what a good traditional woman is. They just never met one. Their mothers are not, their sisters are not, their previous ex-girlfriends or ex-wives are not. So they have no idea of the benefits of all these amazing women who are around them, but they just don't see, and they end up falling into the same trap. So that's a big part of my course, which, by the way, you can go to themillionmanproject.com and check out for yourself. It is a process. And none of these guys, or at least I should say very few of us, end up doing this right and getting the benefits of dating these amazing women, and essentially rejecting the women like this one. But at the end of the day, I always say this, listen, when you make this journey, when you come here or any other country of your choice, you will have many choices. You can meet an amazing girl to marry. You can date several women at the same time. You can choose many different routes on how to be happy as a single guy. But the number one benefit of coming here is getting the fuck away from women like her, which is essentially the entire United States and most of the Europe. Just being away from them, it is such a pleasure. And I invite you to do the same. This is going to be one of the best, if not the best decision you have ever made for yourself in your life.